Books have always been vessels of knowledge, stories, and ideas, but not all books are welcome in every society. Throughout history, countless books have been deemed too dangerous, too controversial, or too enlightening, leading to their censorship or outright banning. Today, we delve into the fascinating and often dark history of forbidden books and banned knowledge. Ancient beginnings of censorship. Censorship of knowledge isn't a modern phenomenon. It has its roots deep in antiquity, where rulers and religious authorities sought to control what their subjects could read and know. One of the earliest examples of this can be found in ancient Egypt. Pharaoh Akhenaten, known for his radical shift to monotheism, attempted to erase the worship of traditional Egyptian gods. He banned texts related to these gods, ordered the destruction of their temples, and tried to rewrite religious history. His efforts to control knowledge, however, were largely reversed after his death. In ancient China, knowledge was also heavily regulated. During the Qin dynasty, Emperor Qin Shi Huang famously ordered the burning of books and burying of scholars alive in an effort to unify thought under his rule. Texts that didn't conform to his ideological vision were destroyed, particularly those from rival philosophical schools like Confucianism. The Roman Empire also grappled with the power of knowledge. Certain philosophical texts, especially those advocating for republicanism over imperial rule, were censored. Julius Caesar himself is said to have banned certain works that challenged his authority, setting a precedent for future emperors. The medieval church and the war on heresy. As we move into the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church became the dominant force in Europe, controlling both spiritual and intellectual life. The Church viewed itself as the guardian of truth, and any knowledge that contradicted its teachings was deemed heretical. In 325 AD, the First Council of Nicaea marked the beginning of the Church's formal efforts to define and protect its orthodoxy. Over the centuries, this led to the suppression of various texts that were considered heretical, such as the Gnostic Gospels, which offered alternative views on Christianity. The Inquisition, which began in the 12th century, was another tool used by the Church to root out heresy. Books and manuscripts that promoted heretical ideas were confiscated, and their authors often faced severe punishment. One of the most infamous cases was that of Galileo Galilei, whose support for the heliocentric model of the universe led to his trial and forced recantation, Galileo's Dialogue. Concerning the two chief world systems was banned, and he spent the last years of his life under house arrest. This event marked a significant moment in the history of banned knowledge, as it highlighted the tension between scientific discovery and religious dogma. The Age of Enlightenment and the fight for free thought. The Age of Enlightenment in the 17th and 18th centuries brought a renewed interest in science, philosophy, and individual rights. This era, however, was also marked by intense censorship, as monarchs and religious institutions sought to maintain control over the burgeoning ideas of freedom and rationality. One of the most famous examples of censorship during this period was the banning of Voltaire's works. Voltaire, a fierce critic of the church and advocate for freedom of speech, saw many of his writings banned in France. His satirical novella, Candide, was particularly targeted due to its criticism of religious and political institutions. Despite this, Voltaire continued to publish his works clandestinely, smuggling them across borders and spreading his ideas throughout Europe. This period also saw the creation of the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, a list of books banned by the Catholic Church. This list, first published in 1559, included works by scientists, philosophers, and reformers that were considered dangerous to the faith. The index remained in effect for over 400 years, with the last edition published in 1948. It included works by renowned figures like Copernicus, Descartes, and John Milton, showing the lengths to which the Church would go to suppress ideas that threatened its authority. Political censorship in the modern era. As we move into the 20th century, political censorship became a tool of authoritarian regimes worldwide. The Nazis infamously held book burnings in the 1930s, targeting works by Jewish authors, communists, and any literature that didn't conform to their ideology. This was a dark period for intellectual freedom, as entire libraries were reduced to ashes. Around the same time, Soviet Russia under Stalin was engaging in its own form of censorship. Books that criticized the government or promoted ideas of individual freedom were banned, and writers who defied these restrictions faced imprisonment or execution. The dystopian novel 1984 by George Orwell, though fictional, captured the essence of state censorship and control over knowledge. Orwell's work itself was subject to censorship in various countries. It was banned in the Soviet Union and other communist states, as its critique of totalitarianism was too close to home. In these regimes, controlling knowledge was crucial to maintaining power, and books that offered alternative views were seen as threats. The fight for freedom of speech and intellectual freedom, the mid-20th century also saw a growing movement to protect freedom of speech and intellectual freedom. In the United States, landmark cases like Roth v. United States and Miller v. California challenged the government's ability to ban books on the grounds of obscenity. These cases paved the way for greater freedom of expression, though the fight was far from over. Books like The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and 1984 by George Orwell became symbols of the struggle against censorship. These works were frequently challenged or banned in schools and libraries across the country, often due to their themes of rebellion, race, and the questioning of authority. Even today, books are still being challenged and banned in various parts of the world. Whether it's due to their political content, portrayal of minority groups, or depictions of sexuality, these books continue to spark debates about what should be allowed in the public domain. The digital age and the battle for information control. As we enter the digital age, the landscape of censorship has changed. The internet has made information more accessible than ever before, but it has also given rise to new forms of control. Governments, corporations, and even social media platforms now have the power to regulate what we see and read. In some countries, the internet is heavily censored, with entire websites and platforms blocked to prevent the spread of dissenting ideas. China's Great Firewall, for example, is a modern-day manifestation of ancient censorship practices, aimed at controlling the flow of information to its citizens. The revelations by whistleblowers, like Edward Snowden, have shown that even in democracies, there are ongoing battles over the right to privacy and the control of information. As technology advances, so too do the methods of censorship and the fight against it. The history of forbidden books and banned knowledge is a testament to the enduring struggle between those who seek to control information and those who fight for the freedom to learn, think, and express. While the methods of censorship have evolved, the fundamental conflict remains the same. In the end, the power of knowledge is in its ability to challenge, inspire, and transform society. And as long as there are ideas that challenge the status quo, there will be those who seek to suppress them. But history has shown us that knowledge, once unleashed, cannot be contained. So next time you pick up a book, remember, you're holding in your hand something that has the power to change the world, or at least someone's world.